One of the most common things that is left on a comment card from a student at USC libraries is, "We need more study space." There's not enough study space in Thomas Cooper Library to accommodate all of the students at USC, especially during exam week. And this is evidenced by the students sitting on the floor in the middle of the hallway, in the middle of the stacks. Even I saw someone presenting in a hallway last year with no shoes on. Therefore, I propose that we create compact shelving, high-density storage on the first and second floors of the Thomas Cooper Library. This will give the students more space on the third and fourth floors of Thomas Cooper Library, which is currently used mostly for physical books in the stack. So the stacks, the difference between compact shelving and regular stacks at a library are they can move close together. Now, traditional stacks are stationary. They're probably drilled into the floor. You can't move them. They take up a good range of space because you need to have them wide enough for someone with a wheelchair to get through. That's how wide it has to be. Now, with compact shelving, you can still have the stacks be that wide, but only one at a time. So you don't need that space in between each compact shelving unit. Now, for those of you who may be unfamiliar with compact shelving, I did find this on Clemson Library's website, and they have already implemented compact shelving high-density storage on their first and second floors. And they have a frequently asked questions page, and it led me to this: how to use compact shelving. Now you can see Clemson, this is probably on their first floor from the looks of it. You can turn those these little knobs and open up each individual stack one at a time. Obviously, you can see the space here on the right that then a person can get in there and access whatever they need depending upon what call number and what stack it is. Any of you are worried about safety concerns, you can only open the compact shelving unit if the shelf isn't locked. So the shelf will lock if it senses any kind of resistance when it's you're trying to move it and somebody might be in there and you don't know it. As soon as it hits something that gives it any kind of resistance, it will stop. I saw a demonstration of this being done at Clemson because that is one of the concerns I had. Students don't really pay attention sometimes to what they're doing, so we didn't want to get any students smashed in there. Now, I really think this is something that needs to be done, and it needs to be done before we start trying to upgrade the library. The library looks like it is stuck in the 60s. It's not impressive. When you walk in, you're not like, "Oh, wow, I can't believe they've done this, this, and this." When I walk into the Clemson Library, I'm amazed at what's happened. I used to work there in 2007, left in 2008, and it's just purely amazing how much the compact shelving units have been able to make that library thrive. Now they have the space to make things like an Adobe Digital Studio or their geospatial lab. It's amazing what just having the space opened up can do. And they have even workout rooms where you can study now on the lower levels that used to hold physical books. In order for us to maintain our funding, especially in today's times, we have to be seen as an influential part of the campus. And right now we're not doing a good job showing that. We can't even house all the students right now that need to use our services. So this could potentially increase our funding if we're able to show that we're an integral part of the university that fosters student education, and it will continue to receive funding from the state and university level. So we're creating more space with technology and student study areas in Thomas Cooper with compact shelving. That's our main goal here, why we're doing it. Also, the great thing about compact shelving is you can keep your books in the library. Um, it takes a while for items to get to and from an offsite storage facility, which is what USC is currently considering doing. Now, we already have an offsite storage facility, so creating another one is going to add a lot more cost, so we would be renting it. Now, renting a building, as you know, we're never going to own that building, so we're just throwing money into a trash can every year for this building, and who knows how long that contract will go on. We don't know when we will lose our relationship with the people that own the building. So you have to be on your guard. You might have to move your books at the drop of a hat. Now, I'm not saying that that is a strong possibility, but it could happen. So that's one of the disadvantages to not owning the building. However, I'm told by the annex director, Nelson Rivera, that it would cost approximately $4 million to create another storage facility that could hold 1.5 million books, which is currently how much our current annex can hold. So, roughly, if you look below, I did some calculations, and it looks like, now this doesn't include labor, but $4 million is close to about how much it would cost, given the figures that I looked up online, $46 a square foot for compact shelving. And I didn't have a really great floor plan of Thomas Cooper Library, but I did find out the total square feet, and since it's pretty much a standard building, that the only floor that's kind of different in size is the mezzanine. The square footage is about the same, so I just divided it by how many floors are in the library, which is 7. So, 7 floors, and I think there were 189 square feet total in Thomas Cooper, so 41 square feet. And this is what it equals out to. Using the higher end of the compact shelving units, the quote that I saw, $46 a square foot, this would be the number for one floor. Now, we wouldn't have to do both floors at the same time. I think Clemson just did one of theirs, and then they decided if they were going to do the second one. So there's a way we could save money up front. We've already received $1 million, or we have that set aside for us to use on this project. $1 million is a lot of money to throw into the trash can. So I propose that instead of spending it on the storage facility that we won't ever own, and we're going to put stuff that we own in it and rely on another place to keep our books and send them, that's additional salaries, $160,000 in salaries that we would have to pay people. That's per year. So if you calculate roughly how much that would cost versus the compact shelving, in the end, I think you're going to be saving money. You're not throwing it in the trash can, you're investing it in your building, which is what's going to impress parents when they come and visit with their children and they're trying to decide what school they're going to go to. That's one important thing that I think a lot of people miss at Thomas Cooper Library, is that the parents, when they come in and they're touring the library, they're not impressed. If they tour UNC Charlotte, they'll probably be impressed. They've done a lot of renovation, including compact shelving. Now, I've seen a lot of successes in libraries that have done this. They've been able to thrive, and I think that we need to stop doing what we've already done and try something else, because it's not working. We're just keeping our books, not changing the building, throwing all our money away into another building, and not focusing on the building that we already have. Now, some key metrics that we could use to see if compact shelving would be a good idea before we even did it would be to figure out this number, the cost of renting and staffing an additional storage facility versus building high-density storage / compact shelving on the first and second floors. I tried to find the number of what the additional storage facility would cost, but I found out surprisingly that Nelson Rivera was not part of the group that is making the new storage facility, which you would think he would be since he's in charge of the current one, so he would be the one that knows the most about it. It already seems like a lot of mistakes are being made, and he should definitely be involved in at least finding the building if that's what we're going to move forward with. Now, currently, students that can't get inside the library can use the public library. Richland County Library has just updated their building. They secured a bond referendum several years ago, which was, I believe, over $60 million to upgrade all of their libraries, and they've really done a lot. I think if you ask the parents if they would be willing to pay a library fee to increase their child's productivity and show them what the library can really be, I think they would be willing to do that. But they wouldn't be if they saw the building as it is now. We have to first make the step forward to renovate the building, move our physical collection from the third and fourth floor, I think, to the first and second floor in compact shelving, not to another storage facility, and then renovate the space that we have left over for the students. Once we can show that we have made an effort and we have the resources and the staff to think up these ideas and create innovative spaces like the Adobe Studio, or, as I said before, Clemson's Geospatial Lab. UNC Charlotte has a gaming studio called Area 49 because they're the 49ers. Really cool space. They've got several maker spaces, and we could be doing that. We could be with them. We're the same size as them, roughly about 45,000 students, I believe. I know we're about the same size as UNC Charlotte, if not bigger. So our library should just be about as big or better. And when I say big or better, I mean in terms of the technology that we're using and the way we're using our space. We're using our space currently as a traditional library stuck in the 60s. And we need to move forward now into the future, or we're going to get left behind. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pinka. I am sorry that that proposal was so long. I ended up doing a lot more than I thought I needed, and it was really hard to even touch on all of it. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit about what I did to get here. And first, like I said, I worked at Clemson Library when they were actually doing this project, which is what gave me the idea. I initially talked to Megan Palmer about this and what actually the students were asking for, and they were asking for more space. And it seemed like the logical thing to do was to build the compact shelving. But then I heard that the provost had given us $1 million to secure this offsite storage facility, which to me didn't seem like a good idea. I'd seen this work at Clemson, as I mentioned during the proposal, and I've seen this work at UNC Charlotte, which are similarly sized schools. I'm not sure exactly what their tuition is. That is another thing I would have had to look up, and I'm already way over time, so I think it's at least worth looking at for sure. And one of the second things that I did was I talked to my boss, Amber Cook, about this, and I asked her why we weren't doing compact shelving, and she said something about, well, we looked into it, but we can't do it. And I said, well, why can't we do it? And she said, because the floors couldn't support the load. And I said, wait a minute, the first floor that's being held up by the earth can't support compact shelving. That doesn't make any sense. The first floor is the lowest floor. There's nothing underneath it. So it doesn't make sense to me why it couldn't hold up compact shelving, at least on the first floor. As I started making this lean canvas for the compact shelving to create more room for student study and technology space, I kept coming up with more things. I just made a lot of things here in the cost structure because it's a lot. It's a lot up front, and that's one thing I feel like I would be worried about in doing a real proposal for this, because the library wants immediate reward right now. That's kind of what I've seen in administration. So asking for this much money is not something that I'm not sure they'd be willing to do. Unfortunately, I don't think that we're going to be able to catch up with the other libraries if we continue to throw the money in other buildings like we did with special collections, which I mentioned in my library audit, I'm sure. Clemson actually, once they got rid of a lot of their physical items, well, they didn't get rid of them, put them in the compact shelving area, they wrote a grant, and Adobe Digital Photo Suite was built in Clemson Library, basically for free. And all the students get Adobe for free because they have a partnership with them. And it's really cool, the digital studio there. And it seems like a lot of grants that we write that don't have to do with special collections get denied because they have to go up to admin first. And if admin doesn't sign off on it, then your grant dies. So that's discouraging. And another problem with moving forward through this is even if we got compact shelving, we still would have to get approval for these grants. And we don't have enough money after this to immediately start building stuff like this unless we ask for grants or donations. And we've got to have boots on the ground out there asking for it. And I think we've got some great people to do that. We just need to get it past our upper management. But I do think that having a physical collection on site, maybe not an expansive one, but one that is decent, is better than housing everything off site and then having to pay people to work there and then send it back. It seems like a lot of money tied up in this building that we don't own. So that's my main thing that I was concerned about, but also the fact that we're not providing what the students want, and that makes me feel terrible as a future librarian. I already consider myself one as I've worked there for 10 years and 3 years at Clemson. So, but I do think we do have an unfair advantage, and I didn't talk about that in our proposal, but the library is considered at the heart of the university, so we already have the students' love, and it's just a common place where they come to study, and they still do, even though I know they're not impressed with the building. They could study at home or in a public place, but they're not going to get the expertise that they will from, let's say, a reference librarian on their research. They're not going to have access to the sources as easily either. A lot of people seem to have trouble accessing sites off campus because they're not logged into the proxy server. So that's one advantage of being on campus. You don't have to worry about that. It's just I think we want to keep our kids inside the library and not outside. And in order to do that, we've got to revamp the building. And the best way to do that is to put money into the building with the compact shelving. Some additional costs that we're going to have to worry about in the future is when we take out the stacks that we have now, if we do the compact shelving, we'll have to rip out the carpet as well, because I know there's no carpet under the stacks currently because they've already replaced the carpet a bunch of times because our floor leaks on the 4th floor, which is where I currently am. So they've had to remove the carpet and move the stacks around, and I know there's nothing under there. So we need new carpet after the installation of the compact shelving on all the floors, which they use really that cheap square carpet, which I don't think is expensive, and we have a lot left over, so that might not even really cost us that much. We need new furniture for sure. We don't have enough to cover the 3rd and 4th floors. We just have a little study space. The 4th floor is really what I want to focus on with the group work. So we want a lot of big tables on the 4th floor because it's not a quiet floor. Now the 3rd floor and below, those are quiet floors. So if you need quiet study, you can go to those levels. Now the 4th floor also has a multimedia classroom. That's about the only exciting thing on the 4th floor, if you want to call it that. I don't ever see it being used except by us, so that's another thing to think about. There are a lot of study rooms, and those do get used, and I think those should stay, but maybe we could work with the floor plan if we need to create a makerspace down there. I think a lot of that stuff should go on the main level because that's what we want people to see as they walk in. Clemson, the way it is when you come in, if you look up to the left on the upper level, you can see the Adobe Suite. And at UNC Greenville, you walk in the front doors and you have to go to the, I want to say, 2nd level in order to see all their cool makerspaces, which is fine. But the way our building is laid out, I think it would be best to have all that stuff as much as possible on the main level. So there is a reference collection on the main level, which we would probably have to stick down in the compact shelving too, which it would totally fit down there, I think. But this is pretty much all I have right now. I know it's a lot. I'm sorry I jumbled over anything, but if you have any questions, please let me know. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope it wasn't too hard to listen to. And thank you.